And but we all know that there is a struggle. And so anyway, today we're gonna do a yoga session, and that's kind of like a word that some people get scared of, like yoga. I don't know how to yoga, but today we're gonna kind of learn a little bit of what yoga really is. It's not one thing. It's not just stretching. It's not just meditating, and it can be a little bit of a combination of things, and it's whatever you want. Yoga is about self, and it's about learning yourself, and about um, you know just progressing in your life and with yourself, both physically, mentally, and everything. So we're going to be doing a session that'll start off with a little bit of breath work. We'll do 2 breath practices. Then we'll start moving a little bit, moving our bodies. But this won't be anything rigorous. We're going to just be doing a little bit of like restorative. We might get a little warmed up, warm up the body a little bit, what we call a hatha flow. And then we'll bring it right back down and do a little bit of meditation just to kind of solidify our practice today. And so without further ado, let me turn off this. Let's see here. All right. So wherever you're at right now is perfectly fine. If it's comfortable for you, if you're in a chair, on the couch, if you're lying on a mat, all of that is perfect. And so the tools that we'll be using today is just ourselves and our mats. If you like to use anything else in your practice, like blocks or bolsters or straps or anything, feel free to grab a hold of those and use them at your convenience. And so we're going to be starting with just wherever we're at. If you are laying down, you can do this laying down, but if you're seated, I like to kind of straddle the chair. So if I'm in a chair, I like to get the legs nice and wide, and plant the feet nice and firm on the ground or the mat. If your legs are kind of short like mine, you may need to use some blocks underneath the legs. But once the feet are nice and firm, I like to kind of scoot way back in the chair to get that support in the hips and the sit bones and sit up nice and tall. Now you can either choose to kind of lay up against the back of the chair and be supported by the back of the chair, or you can kind of allow the chest to come forward and open the arms and shoulders, open the heart and throat. And maybe a little arch in the lower back. And then just try to find a little bit of stillness. Maybe take a nice deep breath or 2. And then feel free to let it out the mouth, or in the nose and out the nose, or in the nose and out the mouth. Kind of trying to relax the shoulders here, staying tall through the top of the head. And right here, if you'd like to close the eyes for a bit, or have the eyes at a soft gaze, totally up to you. We can try to bring ourselves inward just a little bit. Trying to just kind of recognize all the things about ourselves, like where our energy is today, where our emotion is today, where our physical body is today. And then as we, quickly recognize how we're feeling and how our body feels, and We can start to set our intention for our practice today. An intention can always help us. This is your direction. And as you take another deep breath or two, just really thinking about what you'd like to get out of this yoga session here. Knowing that everything is your choice. So if we're up doing tree pose and you'd like to lay down and go to sleep, please feel free to do so. Yoga is your practice. And when you're ready, we'll go ahead and jump right into some of our breathing practices. So if you'd like to take one hand to the lower belly and one hand to the chest, we'll begin with the 3-part breath. And the 3-part breath will be it's pretty self-explanatory, breathing in 3 sections of the body, the lower belly, the solar plex area, and the chest. So we'll be inhaling the lower belly first, the solar plex next, and then the chest, and then exhaling out of the chest first, the solar plex, and then the lower belly. And this type of breathing allows us to get more air into our lower lungs. We tend to do a lot of chest breathing throughout our regular days from day to day. And we don't expire all the air out of our low lungs. And holding that expired air in has, some negative connotations, some negative health things. And so we're going to practice today and see what that feels like. So we like to have one hand on the low belly and one hand on the chest. We can actually feel our belly and our chest rise when we inhale and feel them lower when we exhale. And so taking just a nice deep breath or two before we begin, and just letting it out of the mouth, just sighing it away. Starting to relax the shoulders too. When you're ready, you can stay with my breath pace if that matches yours, but if it gets to a point where it's a little too tough to stay with my breath pace, whenever you need to, go ahead and take off at your own breath pace. So after the next inhale and exhale, we're going to be inhaling into the lower belly first, then the solar plex, and then the chest. And then exhaling out of the chest, solar plex, and lower belly, pushing all the air out. Inhale, lower belly, filling it up, the solar plex. Ribs expand, chest expands, and then exhale, chest goes down, solar plex, lower belly goes down as we push all the air out. Inhaling, lower belly, solar plex, chest, exhale, chest, solar plex, lower belly. Keep going at your own breath pace, as full as you like. Feeling the expansion of the belly in all 4 directions, and the solar plex, the ribs expanding in all 4 directions, and then the chest expanding in all 4 directions, front, back, side to side, utilizing the full capacity of the lungs. Feeling the belly and chest rise and fall with your hands. And already starting to notice what this feels like. If you enjoy this, if you like this, if you feel the benefits of this. And after the last one, Just releasing the hands and returning to a normal breath, whatever that feels like for you. And just notice if anything's changed in the body, the natural breath, or your emotions or feelings, and the energy. Nothing may not have changed, but if it is, just take a little note. And then we'll be going right to the second breath practice. And so the second breath practice actually combines, well, you can use the 3-part breath with this next breath. This is called the 4-part breath. And we'll be simply inhaling a 1 to 2 second pause at the top, and then exhaling in a 1 to 2 second pause at the bottom. And that's all there is to the 4-part breath. And again, you can combine the 3-part breath with this if that's a little too much. Just simply breathe normal. And again, at any time, if you feel any, during the whole yoga session, feel any pain, discomfort, shortness of breath, lightheadedness, anything like that, just discontinue, return to a normal position or breath. And so for this, we're maybe taking a deep breath or two to kind of reset. And if you'd like to do the 3-part breath with this, you can. Inhaling, slight pause at the top. Exhale, pushing out all the air, and a slight pause at the bottom. Inhale, slight pause at the top. Exhale, slight pause at the bottom. Inhale, and go ahead and continue at your own breath pace. Maybe about 2 or 3 more times. Not holding the breath too long. Filling up the belly and the chest. Seeing if you can feel the full capacity of the lungs, the upper and lower lungs. And when you're all done, just exhaling out however you like and returning to a normal breath. And just noticing if anything's changed here. And the energy, the breath, the emotion, the body. And as we're kind of just reflecting on this last breath practice, we'll begin to set our intentions into our movement practice and what you'd like to get out of this. If you have the eyes closed, gently opening the eyes, maybe fluttering them open. And maybe a little wiggle of the head and shoulders, wiggle of the hands, kind of loosening up the body a little bit. And wiggle. And another deep breath. Just to kind of wake up the body. And then we'll go right to our movement practice. So We're going to start with just some really gentle stuff here seated, if you're seated, and then we'll make our way to our mats, do a little bit of bigger stuff, and then break it down to some restorative yoga. And so here in your seat, the arms can be wherever they want, on the lap or beside the body. And we're reaching out tall to the top of the head, the shoulders open, the heart and throat open, maybe gently tilting the head up just to make sure we get plenty of air through the esophagus. Inhale nice and deeply into the belly and let it out of the mouth. On the next inhale, exhale, allow the right ear to just fall to the right shoulder. And we're not trying to force this or grab it with the arm and pull it down, just let gravity stretch the side of the neck. The shoulders are still relaxed. We tend to tense up the shoulders when we're doing a lot of neck work. So throughout this first part of the warm up or movement, just remember to try to relax those shoulders back to the front. Let the head and neck do all the work here. So inhaling nice and tall. Exhale the left ear to the left shoulder. And at first, we may not be able to go down as far as the other side, but we might notice over a few breaths, we might begin that the head might begin to drift a little bit closer to the shoulder. As you get a little deeper stretch in the side of the neck. And when you're done here, inhale and back up tall. This time we're going to look to the right. So eyes and chin nice and level as we just look to the right. So here, seeing if we can relax the shoulders back to the front and let the head and neck do all the work. We're looking as far right as we like. And just breathing here, staying nice and tall. Checking in with the balance in your feet, the balance in your hips. And then if you'd like to go a little bit further here, inhale nice and tall, and exhale, look up to that right side. So we're looking as far up and as far right as we like. Breathing here. If it's a little too much, feel free to pull out of it. Shoulders square to the front. And although we're looking up, we seem to crunch the back of our neck. See what it feels like to try to find a long back of the neck, even though we're looking up. We might feel a push and a pull in the front of the neck. And when you're done here, inhale back to neutral on that right side and exhale back to the center. And feel free to shake the head out like a big, exaggerated yes. Looking up and back a little bit more than we look down. And then maybe left to right, nice and gently. Whenever you're ready, inhale tall. Exhale, look into the left. Eyes and chin level. Nice and tall, looking as far left as we like. Shoulders relaxed. Just getting out of this what you like to get out of this without forcing anything. We're just exploring the body and utilizing the breath for that exploration. If you like to go a little further, inhale tall, exhale looking up to that left side. So as far up, as far left as you like. Along back of the neck, although we're looking up. Shoulders relaxed back to the front. And just breathe in here. And when you're done, inhale back neutral on that left side and exhale back to the center, shaking the head out. Nice, big, slow, taking breaths here, left to right. And we'll go right down to the shoulders. And so we're going to be rotating the shoulders forward and shrug. Exhale back, still holding them up and down. Inhale forward and shrug. Exhale back and down. One more time at your own pace. And then switching directions back, shrug, forward, down. Inhale back, shrug, exhale forward and down. One more time. And when you're done there, shaking those arms and shoulders out. And we're going to do the exact same thing, just with the arms out wide. So we're stretching the arms out. And we're trying to actually stretch the upper back. So see what it feels like to pull in both directions with the arms and see if you feel just a slight stretch across the upper back. And then we're going to rotate the shoulders forward, shrug, back, down, forward, shrug, back, down. One more time at your own breath pace. And then we're going the opposite way, back, shrug, forward, down, back, shrug, forward, down. One more time. This can get a little tough. And when you're done, just letting that fall out and swing the arms, taking a few breaths here. And we're going to be reaching forward, meeting the palms together, maybe interlace the fingers, and then flipping the hands outward, stretching that upper back here. I like to relax the shoulders here as I'm pushing, kind of activate a little bit of a different area there. And then inhale back in, interlace the fingers the opposite way. Might feel weird. Inhale and exhale, push those arms out in front again, relaxing the shoulders. Breathing into that upper back. Inhaling right back, and then dropping the arms to the sides. And from here, we'll go ahead and make our way to our mats. So if you haven't already made it there, you can meet me on the mat. And so on the mat here, we're going to continue this trend coming from upwards to down the body. And so I like to do what's called the torso rotator. So we're all used to the hip rotators. We're going to actually leave the hips and the legs right where they are and allow the upper back to do all the work here. So be very mindful and very careful. Respect and honor your body with this. So we're going to be using the biggest range of motion that our lower lumbar spine can do. And if our backs haven't moved in this way in a long time, it could aggravate some injury. So going at your own pace, maybe placing the hands on the hips, the feet about shoulder width apart. We're going to be kind of folding forward, maybe just a little at first, and then swinging the head and the torso or the shoulders around to the side, around to the back, leaning back just a little bit, and then around to the other side and back around to the front. So we're kind of trying to get a big upper body rotation, starting off with some small circles. And if you'd like to go a little bigger, you can start to increase the size of that circle, feeling the full range of motion of that lower lumbar spine. This can help decompress the spine. It can help lubricate the spine. And if you haven't went the opposite way, go ahead and go the opposite way. It's really been something for me when I recognize how simply going the opposite direction for some things actually feels completely different. And that used to be really surprising to me, but it's all part of it. And so when you're done here, coming back to a neutral spine, and we're gonna meet the feet out nice and wide, and go ahead and get your hip rotators, what we're all familiar with, the hula hoops. Just connecting the breath with this movement. So maybe as you rotate up, forward and around, you inhale, maybe exhale as you go back and around, or vice versa. As big or small as you like, going the opposite way if you haven't done so. Trying to get those hips moving a little bit today. Feeling where it's tight. If there's any spots you want to stop and rock back and forth right there in those tight spots, this is your practice. And when you're all done, returning to a nice neutral spine here. And then we're gonna warm up the hands and the feet. So with the hands, we'll be reaching forward, spreading the fingers, and we'll be looking at the back of our hands and rotating the wrist. But the key to this wrist rotation is keeping the fingers spread as wide as you can throughout the whole rotation. So go a couple times in one direction, a couple times in the other direction, trying to keep those fingers spread. The biggest rotations you can do with the hands. Snap, crackle, pop. And that's okay. Shaking those hands and fingers out, swinging those arms out. And then we're going to come right back to having the hands out in front. And this time, one hand will stay, the fingers will stay nice and wide, and the other hand will just come right across to the tips of all 5 fingers. And go ahead and stretch that hand. It might be a little difficult to try to put the same amount of pressure on the tips of all 5 fingers, but that's the challenge. So trying to relax the wrist on that hand and pull those fingers to stretch into the palm, the carpal tunnel in the wrist, and the forearm. And then when you're done relaxing those hands, shaking those hands out, swinging those arms out, And coming right back with the hands out in front, the other hand across the tips of all 5 fingers, stretching into that hand. And when you're done here, releasing that, shaking out those hands, swinging out the arms, we'll go right to the feet. So with the feet a little bit closer together, we're going to be stacking over or leaning over to one side, just kicking the foot out in front. And maybe you offset the balance with the hands or however you need to, but rotating the ankles, nice big rotations, trying to draw a big circle with your toes, a nice perfect circle. Going one direction and then the other. Breathing with this as well. Sometimes we hold our breath when we're doing multiple things at once. And when you're done, setting that foot down, shake, kick, wiggle it out. Take a deep breath here. And then switching to the other side, just standing nice and tall, leaning over to the other side and kicking that foot out in front, rotating those ankles. Nice big circles. Notice the similarities and differences between both sides. It's okay that they're different. Going the opposite way if you haven't done so. And then when you're done, setting that foot down, a shake, a kick, a wiggle, and a breath. And then we'll begin to, I like to rock, so we'll be rocking several times in this session. And so just begin to rock from your heels to your toes. And you don't have to rock all the way to the tippy toes, but just to the balls of the feet. Trying to make sure the pinky toe is involved. Sometimes it gets left out. So when you rock to the toes, sometimes the pinky toe isn't even on the mat. We want to make sure pinky toe gets a little of the action too. So as you rock to the toes, lift the heels, send the hips forward, arms and torso, maybe offsetting the balance, leaning back. Then rock, bend the knees. As you come in, you flat-footed. And then lift the toes, rock back to the heels, send the hips back, and maybe offset the balance with your torso and arms. You're probably going to lose balance here, and that's okay too. Inhale forward, hips forward to the toes. Exhale, rock back to the heels, lift the toes. Just keep on rocking. Whatever this looks like, it's all good. If we're steadily losing balance, and it's all good. Just trying to get a little bit into those hamstrings, warming up the feet and ankles. When you're done rocking, we're going to go to the second rock. So take the feet out as wide as the mat and just come right down into a squat. So in the squat, Your hands can be between the legs, maybe the fingertips touch the ground, and use the elbows to kind of push out on the knees to kind of stretch into the groin area. I like to lean forward and stretch into the groin area a little bit. Frog position. And there's different things you can do here. You can come right from here to sending the hips all the way up and kind of locking the knees out to get into the hamstrings and then come right back down. Kind of getting into those hamstrings. Leaning forward again, elbows on the insides of the knees or the legs. Get into the groin. You can go one knee to the ground at a time, switching from side to side. Or you can even rock both knees in, maybe touch the ground, and then both knees back and trying to actually send the knees back behind the body, kind of where the armpits are, trying to actually send the knees back behind the body. They probably won't go far, but the benefits are in the effort of just trying to. You might feel that deep stretch into those hips. And the hips are a ball and socket joint. And we can do this, will help lubricate, stretch the tissue and the joints. Just rocking. And today will be kind of a reptilian based session. But reptilians get a bad rap. They like frogs and alligators and snakes, and they get a bad rep, but they're not bad creatures. And so when you're done here, frog, just dropping the knees down to the mat, walking the hands forward, and then getting in your cat and cows. So the knees are under the hips, the hands are under the shoulders. Spread the fingers nice and wide. The tops of the feet are on the mat, nice and flat. And we inhale, the cow inhales the head up and tail up, dropping the belly towards the mat. And the cat exhales, the chin tucked and the tail tucked, the upper back going towards the sky. Doing this at your own breath pace. Trying to kind of warm up the spine some more. I like to think about keeping the shoulders away from the ears. I like to think about, this is what's called tucking the tail. So if the tail is sticking out, we have a little arch in the lower back. And then if the tail is under, we decrease that arch in the back and kind of pull the tailbone underneath. We tend to engage the core a little bit more if we tuck that tail under. You might feel the abdomen's kind of tightening up. And then just totally releasing it with the cow. When you're done here, take the knees and the feet in together and walk the hands back until we're sitting on our heels in hero's pose. if you do have any blocks or anything to put underneath the forehead, go ahead, grab that, and then drop the forehead directly down to that object or directly down to the mat. Stretch the arms forward as far as they can go, crawling those fingers forward, and then use the hands to push back into your seat just a little bit further. And take some deep belly breath here. Try to fill up the belly. Remember that 3-part breath. Try to fill up the belly in all 4 directions. See what it feels like to swing the hips all the way to the right and take a breath there. And swing the hips all the way to the left and take a breath there. And back to the center. Inhaling up to a neutral spine and a little bit of work here, tucking the tails under and exhaling the hips, backing up for our down dog. And do whatever you like in your down dog, whatever's within your practice. Some people walk the dog, one heel to the ground at a time to stretch into the calves. Some people like to just bounce into the hamstrings like me. Dropping that head right between the shoulders, trying to kind of flop the head and use the back muscles instead of the arms to hold yourself up. And then when you're done, dropping the knees, crawling the hands forward, and then drop the hips right towards the mat for our King Cobra. So here, the hands might be a little closer to the body. And drop the shoulders away from the ears and the hips trying to go as close to the ground as possible. The head reaching up and maybe a little bit back for that King Cobra. I like to wiggle the hips left to right. Cobras kind of wiggle to move. When you're done, inhale a little bit taller. And exhale, lower all the way down to the mat. And rest the head on the back of the hands. Elongate the body nice and long. And see if you can disengage the lower back that we just worked. We had that lower back doing a lot of work. So see what it feels like to try to relax that lower back. And just breathe here. In this prone position. And we're going to work a little bit more of the back area. So the way that the fascia is designed, the fascia is just a bunch of tissue surrounding the body, surrounding everything, including muscles. And as we all grew up learning to stretch before we work out and stretch before we do anything, we always tended to stretch the muscles, and the fascia was left out. And the fascia is now being implicated these days to really focus more. So we'll actually work a little bit of this fascia today. So right in this prone position, reach the hands out above the head. And we may have the head lifted a little bit off the mat, but not up too far to where we're putting a lot of strain on the neck. Just barely lifting it off the mat. The hands reaching above the head, the feet reaching out behind us. And here we're going to put pressure in the left hand and pressure in the right foot. And we're going to be lifting the right hand and the left foot. So as we lift these, we want to try to keep the arm right beside the head and fully extended. And the same thing with the left leg. As we lift it, we want to keep the knee kind of locked out and the heel going towards the sky. So when you're ready, just lifting the right arm and the left leg and just trying to lift it further towards the sky, facing out on that left hand and that right foot, keeping the head nice and straight where it is. We might start to feel a little work here. Just breathe into this space. We're trying to connect the upper back muscles with the upper back fascia with the lower back fascia. We're trying to connect them back together again. And when you're done here, rest those down. Try to disengage the back muscles. Take some deep breath into the back. And then we're going to be switching to the other side. So reach it back out in front, basing out through the right hand and the left foot this time. Go ahead and whenever you're ready, lifting the right foot and the left arm and just breathe in here. Trying to lift that heel as high as you can towards the sky, in the back of the hand, high as you can towards the sky. Trying to feel that connection across the back and breathe. And when you're done here, gently lowering, trying to disengage the back, breathing into the back, elongating the back. And to offset this for a little bit, walk the hands back to the chest, push up through a neutral spine, and this time, take the knees out nice and wide, with the two big toes meeting together in the center, sitting back to your heels. And if you need something to place the forehead on, or just drop the forehead right to the mat, crawling those hands forward and using the hands to push back into your seat just a little bit more. See what it feels like to try to swing the hips left to right here. They won't go very far because we're wide-legged, but the benefits are in the effort of trying to do so. And when you're done here, moving right up to a neutral spine again, we're going to move right into our next reptilian pose. So here, we're going to simply step up with the right foot. So we're still on the left knee, but we're going to swing that right foot all the way up to the outside of the right hand. So however far you want to go. So you could be out a little bit wider than the right hand. You could be right up close to the right hand. You can be back further away from the right hand, or you can be right up and almost in front of the right hand. Wherever you want to be, just square those hips back up with the mat and simply start to walk the hands in a position where you can begin to drop the chest just a little bit. and just hang out right there. If this is enough for you right here, like it almost is for me, we're trying to keep kind of a flat back, just dropping that chest down. Some people like to wrap that right hand around the right foot and ankle and really drop into that lizard. But just breathe here wherever you are and get out of this what you'd like to get out of this. Sometimes I like to wiggle that right knee left to right to kind of get to that hip a little bit more. You need to come out of it a few inches, just raise up a few inches. Maybe take that left knee out a little bit wider, whatever you need to do here. I even like to play around with lifting the toes on that right foot. See what it feels like to lift those toes or wiggle them. And when you're done with this lizard, unraveling the hand if it was there, sending that knee back down to the ground beside the other, and sitting back for whatever variation of child's pose you like. Taking those nice deep belly breaths. And preparing for the other side. Gently inhaling up to a neutral spine. And whenever you're ready, just bringing that foot up and forward. Adjusting the knees and the foot. Keeping those hips square with the mat. And whenever you're ready, dropping the chest down, trying to keep a flat back. Trying to keep that foot nice and flat on the mat. And just breathing wherever you're at. It doesn't have to be too much. As soon as you feel it, that could be enough. And that's what yoga is all about, is just exploring yourself. In these poses, it's exploring your body. But in other poses, we could be exploring our thoughts. And you can even do both in these acrobatic poses here. If whatever you did on that side, maybe do on this side. Just breathing into those hips. Unraveling, swinging that leg back out back. Sit back for your quick child's pose. Inhaling up to a neutral spine. We're going to drop the hips right down to the mat again. And then lower the forehead. And this time we're just going to go baby cobra. So inhaling tall and exhaling up. Just raising the head in the chest off the mat. Engaging that low back again. Using the hands, or if you want more, raising the hands off the mat. A baby cobra may wag its tail if you like to kick the heels to the tailbone and wave the legs left to right. Baby cobra is a little more playful than the king cobra. And dropping the legs, dropping the forehead. disengaging the back muscles, breathing into the back. And then here, we're going to go into the alligator pose. And so the alligator pose, we simply take the arms out wide to where they're just making like a 90-degree angle, as if we're doing a field goal post with our arms. So not stretched out directly above our head, but the elbows bent, framing our head. And then the same thing with the knees and the feet. So this might be a little difficult for some, but just bending the knees and bringing the knees out wide, and then allowing the legs to kind of be right underneath the knees. It might feel, it's going to feel different. It's going to feel kind of weird, but just having, if you just imagine an alligator and how they, when they lay down, how their arms and legs look. And so this tends to open up the pelvic region, the hips a little bit, the groin area. So just find some stillness here. You can put your forehead on like a little shirt, or even the back of your hands. But just going as far as you'd like to go with this. And trying to find just some relative stillness. And begin to recognize the breath. Not necessarily controlling the breath, but what the breath is doing naturally. We might feel, if we're doing the 3-part breath, we might feel the belly trying to fill up in all 4 directions again, but the ground seems to be adding a little bit of resistance to that. Just embrace that and see what benefits that might have for you. And whenever you're done with alligator, gently walking the knees and the feet in towards the center line, and walking the hands towards beside the chest. Inhale the head up to your baby cobra. Exhale, push back to your child's pose. Swinging the hips left to right. And then inhaling up to a neutral spine. And we're gonna go ahead and sit back to our sit bones. So just swinging the legs around and sitting to the sit bones. Inhale, arms out to the side, up to the sky. And when you exhale, you can either lower all the way down or take a quick boat pose, lifting the legs off the mat, leaning back, taking a breath here to elongate the abdomen. And then exhale and slowly lower to the mat. We're going to be walking the feet up where the soles of the feet are on the mat and the knees are pointed to the sky. Inhale the left knee into the chest and cross that foot or that ankle across the other leg. Now there's actually 4 different variations of this where you can choose where you want to be. So just the ankle can be across the knee, or you can kind of slide up to where almost the calf is across the knee. And the same thing a little bit lower, the ankle could be way up towards the right hip or kind of just halfway up the thigh, or even the calf can be halfway up the thigh. So play with where you want to be. And we're going to simply start to wave the legs left to right, keeping the shoulders flat on the mat. And getting a little twist here, a little hip stretch. And then when you're done, just let the foot fall to the floor on that right side. So the left leg is across the right leg, and they're both over to the right side. And maybe that left foot makes it to the ground. Another option is to start to lean the inside of that foot inward and kind of start to lay that knee down, that left knee down towards the ground on this right side. Still keeping the shoulders flat on the mat. Maybe you take the hand to the back of the knee or the leg to just give a gentle pull, or just to add weight without trying to push this too much, just kind of breathing into this for a moment or two. Inhaling back up, unraveling the legs, and bringing that right knee in and crossing that leg over the other. Giving it a few waves back and forth or left to right. And then allowing that right foot to fall to the floor on the left side. If you want to lay the inside of the foot down and the knee going towards the ground. Adding the hand if you want more. The shoulders are relaxed, breathing into the belly. When you're done here, unravel, coming back up and unraveling the legs. And then we're gonna let the legs fall out straight. Give it a drum roll, kind of wiggling the legs up and down. A drum roll on the ground. A deep belly breath. We're going to inhale both knees into the chest and grab a hold with both arms, meeting both palms together in between the legs and reaching through the legs to grab the outsides of the foot if it's accessible, and the bottom of the feet as if we're walking on the ceiling and rocking back and forth, left to right in our happy baby. Feel free to kick one leg to the sky, holding on to it, stretching that hamstring. Inhale that back in and exhale, kick the other out, stretching. Inhale back in, exhale, kick both out straight. Inhale back in, allow them to fall to the ground. Doing a drum roll. Inhale the right knee into the chest. Exhale, pull it right across the body, trying to keep the shoulders square on the mat. If you have a block, you can use blocks under the knees. I like to keep the knee nice and high towards the chest, but that top hip, push that hip away. Although we're keeping the knee high, we're pushing the hip away in order to open up space in that side body and that hip. Inhale that knee back to the chest, roll back to the back. Exhale, kick that heel up to the sky and interlace the fingers behind the hamstring. So here, flex the toes towards the face, send the heel up towards the sky, and we're going to be pulling on the leg and feeling where it stretches, right where the hamstring connects to the glutes, right in the center. Then we can release that. Allow the foot to come across the body just a few inches. Flex the toes towards the face, send the heel towards the sky. Pull on that leg there. And maybe you notice where the hamstrings connect to the glutes a little bit more towards the outside, more towards the hip, maybe. And then you release that. Allow the foot to fall out to that right side just a few inches. Flex the toes towards the face, the heel towards the sky. Pull on that leg, feeling where the hamstring attaches to the glutes near the groin area. And breathe into that. And then release that. Coming back to the center. Flexing the toes towards the face, sending the heel towards the sky. Pull on that leg for one last breath and feeling that hamstring, and allow that leg to fall to the mat. Give it a drum roll, a deep breath. And we'll be inhaling the left knee into the chest, pulling that right across the body. Trying to keep the shoulders square on the mat, the knee nice and high towards the chest as it comes across the body, and the top hip pushing away from our chest, even though we're keeping the knee nice and high. Once you find that place, just breathe in here. When you're done here, inhaling that knee back to the chest, rolling back to the back. Exhale, kick that heel up to the sky and interlace the fingers the opposite way, but behind the leg. So if the right index was on top of the left index last time, try to put the left index on top of the right. It will feel weird, but that's okay. Flexing the toes towards the face, heel towards the sky, pull on that leg, feel where it stretches into the hamstring, connecting to the glutes. Take a breath and release that. Coming across the body just a few inches. Flex the toes towards the face, heel towards the sky, pull on that leg. Feel where it stretches near the hamstring, the glutes, and maybe the outside of the hip a little bit. And release that. Allowing the foot to come out to the left a few inches. Flexing the toes, heel up, pulling on that leg. Maybe you feel the stretch near the hamstring and the glutes and the inner thighs, the groin area. Exhale, release, pull back to the center. Toes towards the face, heel towards the sky. Pull on that leg one last time for a nice deep belly breath. Exhale and let it fall to the mat. And let everything go at this point. There's nothing else to do but to reflect on our practice, already finding that gratitude for finding your way to your mat today, for the benefits that this practice has offered for you, what you've been able to discover about self in this session. And after thinking about those things, starting to find rest in this final resting pose of Savasana. Scanning the body and letting go of any tension that we have in the body. Maybe a little tension in the back, trying to exhale and allow the back to sink a little bit further into the mat in order to support that back a little bit more. Relaxing the face, the muscles in the face. Relaxing the jaws, the neck. Relax the shoulders and the arms. Relax the knees and the feet. And after you scan the body a few times and released any of that unwanted tension. And you're okay with where the body is, we could bring our attention to the breath. And not necessarily controlling the breath, but just seeing what it's doing naturally on its own. The physical sensations of the breath as we inhale that cool air and exhale the warm air. And if you're okay with where the breath is on its own, we can bring ourselves even further inward to the mind, to the thoughts. And although we may have 100 thoughts bouncing around in there, our to-do list, what we did yesterday or what we're doing tomorrow, for one moment, just drawing a big square, a big box, and placing all those jumbled words, those bouncing around words, just placing all of them into that box and sliding that box over to the side for just a moment. In order to create space to put the word gratitude, imagine just a big glowing word, gratitude. You can trace the letters. They can be whatever color you see. But this word gratitude is the only thing in this space for you. And allowing us to feel emotions about that word. Delightful, bright, kind, thankful, great. All these words stem from this one word. What does this word represent for you? Once you've discovered or just reconfirmed what this word represents for you in your life, store this word somewhere deep in the back of the mind or the center of the heart, or both. Somewhere safe where you can always access this word. Out in public, when we're frustrated, anytime, we can just go right back to this word and know everything will be okay. Once you've stored this word for safekeeping, begin to wiggle the fingers and toes, adopt a little bit of a deeper breath into the belly, and roll to one side, and use the hands to push up to an accessible seated position at your own pace. Legs can be wherever they need to be. We could be up on some blocks or back in our chair, wherever we like to be, just sitting up nice and tall. Inhaling the arms out and up to the sky with just the fingertips meeting together above head. And then exhaling the arms back down to the side body. Then inhaling the arms back up, this time with the fingertips and the palms meeting together. And exhaling back down to the side body. And lastly, inhaling arms up, fingertips, palms, and exhaling to the heart center. Relaxing the shoulders and the elbows. Breathing into the heart space. Finding one more thing that you're grateful for in your life. Person, a place, a thing. So one more thing that you're grateful for. Taking another deep belly breath. On behalf of Veterans Yoga Project, thank you guys for practicing with us today. I hope that this practice has offered something beneficial for y'all today. This has been Cortez, and feedback is welcome but not mandatory. And we have Alexandra, are we doing links in the chat for?
Yeah, I just added links to the chat, so y'all can register for the remaining webinar and last yoga class for Light a Candle. They are occurring both on Monday the 27th, which is PTS Awareness Day, and the last day of the Light a Candle fundraiser month. I